Katie,
Hi.
hello.
I don't know what's happening today, but
Yes.
every time I come on Instagram Live, like a shared one, my head
Uh-huh.
always looks gigantic.
No worries. That's me too. Like, I think the moment it's like two levels,
Yeah,
my face is also like expanded, but you're looking great. Thank you so much for being with me today. I've
of
been so
course.
excited.
Of course. No,
Oh my gosh.
I love what you're doing. And I think that, one of the best things that we can all do for each other is support each other when other nurse creators and people here on this platform are like trying to actually do something positive and healthy and like good for our community because
Yeah,
lately nursing has been a little tough. I would
I
say,
know. I
and
know. Yeah.
people need an outlet. And also, I think people need mentors. And I
Yeah.
think Instagram is a really great place to find a mentor. And
Yeah.
I think there's so many great people in here having conversations and meaningful dialogue. So thank you for what you're doing.
You. And speaking of mentors, wow, you are a mentor to so many. I mean, you have so much experience in nursing, and I just recently found out that we graduated from the same nursing school.
I know,
That's great. So I
even
graduated
though
from
you're class of 2019, and I'm like, I was a class of like, well, I started with my associate's degree. So I became
mm,
an associate's degree nurse in 2004. And then I went back to grad school and I think I finished my BSN in like 2011 and then
hmm
just straight to grad school after that. But yeah, you are Hunter class of 2019. And
2019, correct. Actually, so we graduated like May or June, right? And then I got my license in August, and then I started working in the hospital in Mount Sinai in November. And then COVID struck that followed like a few months later. So I was a new grad when the whole COVID situation happened. I work in cardiac surgery step down, and then it was converted
wait,
to a COVID ICU.
which Sinai do you work at?
I work at Morningside, so right across Columbia,
Okay. Oh,
main Columbia,
because I worked as an NP for 5 years at Main
as
Sinai
in main Morningside.
East Side in cardiology. I absolutely loved it. It's my favorite job ever.
There's something about cardiology that's just like it.
Fascinating. Everything revolves around the heart. All your bad
I know.
revolve around the heart. All your good decisions revolve around the
Yeah.
heart.
When someone tells me, "Oh, I'm not really into the heart," I'm like, "Okay, we'll talk another time."
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. You've actually kind of had a nice little orientation into your new career field.
Oh,
How are you adjusting? How are you doing?
oh my goodness. I mean, now I can say that I feel much better. But so I ended my orientation end of January, and
And
I feel like
then
3 weeks after that, I was like, oh, there's something called COVID. But I think like during the end of January, we were already hearing news from other countries, right? But we were like, oh, it's never gonna reach us. It's never gonna reach
Yeah,
us.
yeah. I remember in February, I was actually coming back from Dubai. I hosted a
hmm
nurses retreat to Dubai, and I remember coming back. There
hmm
were stories everywhere, and I remember waiting for my layover flight and
hmm
seeing that Tom Hanks had had COVID, and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Don't take Tom Hanks from us,
I
please.
know, I know. Oh my gosh,
Don't
yeah,
take
no,
our dad."
those days were crazy, and I think that's something that we could talk about too as well, because there were some. I could only feel for the new grads that started along with me and like thrown into
Yeah,
COVID units, because I
yeah,
feel like in the beginning we didn't understand the magnitude of how bad it was going to be.
yeah.
I think it only started getting real when like end of February and a cardiology fellow in the emergency room came running to our unit. We were in the 10th floor and she was like, "Oh my gosh, there's COVID patients downstairs. We have people dying and some doctors don't want to see the patients." That sounds like, "Oh, this is kind of
Yeah.
this
Be
is
like,
kind
"Oh,
of
shit is hitting the fan." Wow.
yeah." I was
Yeah.
like,
I
"This is
I
kind of
mean,
serious."
I don't really think any of us at any point in time would have ever thought that we would see a pandemic in modern day spread globally. I mean, let's not discount the fact there are pandemics in many
hmm
countries. There are
Yeah,
still
yeah.
outbreaks of cholera in Haiti.
hmm
There
hmm
are
hmm
still outbreaks of anthrax and Ebola. So let's not discount that.
Yeah,
But I don't think that any of us would have ever really thought that there would be a global pandemic
yeah.
literally
To this
affecting,
scale, this
yeah, like
scale,
literally
yeah.
every country, everybody out there.
Yeah.
My mom has been a nurse for 56 years now.
Wow.
And to hear her talk about, you know, how like just everything that she's seen, she's like, all right, I can die peacefully now knowing that I've literally seen everything.
Everything, yeah.
Everything like, you know, that I would ever need to see in my like professional career.
Yeah, one of the senior nurses on my floor, she's been in the unit since almost 40 years.
Oh,
And when,
yeah,
you
she's
know,
the
yeah, so she was our point of reference like prior to the pandemic, right? And then there was one day, I remember one night I worked the night shift. There was one night during COVID IC, and I was like, oh, can you help me? And she was like, I honestly have no idea what we're doing too.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, look at like I did a crisis contract out at Kings County, and
yeah.
it was so early that like we really still didn't know anything. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we barely knew how it was transmitted, like 100
Yeah.
at that point. We were still thinking
Mm-hmm.
airborne, and
Yeah.
I mean, there were so many moments in the beginning where people were just kind of, listen, you do what you can with what you have.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the, you know, that's kind of the motto when you're in such a dire situation, when you're working through a pandemic, is you do what
Yeah.
you can with what you have. And shit changes every day. And that's definitely something that I think will shape a lot of our careers. Really,
Definitely. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I mean, you've also been in nursing for what, almost 20 years now, right?
I
And
I sound so old. Whenever I think about that, I'm like, fuck, I'm old, man. God. Like
as long as you don't look like it,
oh
that's
my
all that
God.
matters.
I became a nurse in 2004. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going on my 17 years.
17 year, yeah,
Yeah,
17 years.
17 years.
Wow.
So, and yeah, and just in the last year, I finally left full-time
Mm-hmm.
hospital working full-time
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
since then. I've kind of always had 2 jobs, 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
had like a full-time and like a per diem on the side. But I mean, I worked as a travel nurse. I did my first 2 years as a nurse in med surg because that's where I was a patient.
Mm-hmm.
I was a PCT before I became a nurse,
Mm-hmm.
and started traveling, and then I ended up in New York, and I never left. Well, except for
Until yeah,
right now, but coming back next May.
I know.
So, but like, I mean, I think the one thing that a lot of people realize is that you can have a really fulfilling career as a nurse, and you don't need to do the traditional things that people pigeonhole us into. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I try to really get out there to my mentees
Yeah.
at my workshops and any lectures or seminars that I give, is
Mm-hmm.
because we're just kind of automatically put in this box that
Yeah.
you job in the hospital or in the clinic and you take care of patients and you be thankful you have pension and benefits and you put in
Yeah.
2 years and then you leave. And that is not really right for everybody,
Yeah.
you know? And I think even now more days, even even does that even make sense? Even more nowadays,
Yeah.
uh, I think that a lot of people are leaving those traditional,
Mm-hmm.
you know, nursing jobs, are really pursuing nursing jobs that fulfill them and make them feel valued, and nursing jobs that don't burn them out. Because,
Yeah.
you know, if you really think about the purpose of nursing schools and universities, it's to basically just, you know, pump out graduates. I mean, they don't really care where you go when you're done. But
Yeah.
our nursing education, you know, needs to shift. We need to start encouraging nurses to become entrepreneurs and to sit on
Yeah.
boards, to be politicians and lawmakers,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, to invent and create things. I think that that in the long run is going to help with so much of our burnout, because like if you ever talk to nurses and you ask the nurses who are burnout, which is a pretty big portion of us,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
are always the ones who are working like in hospital and clinic and patient care settings,
Yeah.
those traditional settings. And the unfortunate part of that is that some of them are in jobs that aren't not the right job for them. Places they're working somewhere because they like the fact that they can say they work in the ICU,
Yeah.
or working somewhere because, you know, that's just what nurses do. We work in the
Yeah.
hospital, work in the ER, but it's
Yeah.
not a great job for them.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you know, nurses are staying, you know, in places where it's just not a healthy work environment. And there's
Mm-hmm.
so many other options out there for us now, but
Mm-hmm.
no one tells us that shit. We have to like find and seek out people who are doing it. And
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel like even it starts from nursing school too, right? They tell us, oh, you should get a job in med surge first. You should stay in med surge for two
yeah,
years, and
old rule. I mean,
yeah,
I was a patient care tech on med surg, so I
yeah,
wanted to start there.
yeah,
But like, if you don't necessarily know, hi, Kate. If you don't necessarily know what you want to get into as far as a
yeah,
specialty, then sure, work in med
yeah,
surg, work in tele,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
have a great foundational experience.
Mm-hmm,
Build from there. But
mm-hmm.
like, if you know you want to be an L&D or an OR
Yeah, yeah.
nurse, why the fuck? I mean, if they hire
I
me,
know. Yeah,
then why the fuck do you need to spend several years working in an area that you're not passionate about?
yeah,
And this is the
yeah.
problem, because people get pigeonholed into areas they're not passionate about, and then they
Mm-hmm,
get burnt out, and then they hate nursing, and then they
yeah.
also feel like, man, this is not the right place for me, and then they start
Mm-hmm,
doubting why they even became a nurse to begin with.
mm-hmm.
So I think it's good that so many, nurse creators and influencers out there are trying to spread this message commonly now, is that if you don't need to just go into med surg. You don't even need to go into the hospital.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah,
whole other, forget that
yeah.
there's 90
There's a
million
whole world. Yeah,
nurses out there. Like, the hospital
nursing is
ain't
so
exactly
diverse. Yeah, yeah.
definitely it.
Nursing is so diverse. Like, actually, I was just talking to a close friend last night who's also a nurse, and she's been working in the ICU, and she graduated from it, and they're so burnt out. And I said, there's a whole world outside of this bedside for
Yeah.
nurses. There's
You have
a
to think
whole
about,
world.
have they talked about what they think is burning them out? Like, do they like the unit that they're on, or is it because of COVID, or like,
Yeah,
what is
I feel like it's a accumulation of things, like short staffing that's always been there. I mean, I can speak personally for myself too. Yes, COVID for sure brought a lot of burnout. I mean, you
yeah,
go you go into the profession with the hope and thinking that you can help almost everybody, and then you see everyone dying here and there, and then management is not helping. The hospital does not
yeah.
care about you.
No one,
So,
no one thing. You're like wearing the same weeks at a time. I mean, I know when I went into Kings County to start my crisis assignment, I expected the worst, but even
hmm,
I could have never expected.
yeah,
We were wearing the same PPE for masks for like 2 weeks
yeah,
at a time. I mean,
yeah,
that
yeah. That's
that's how
true.
I fucking got COVID.
Yeah,
I got
and I
COVID.
know you got COVID. Yeah, yeah, and you
I
were
got severe
hospitalized.
COVID. I was hospitalized for 2 weeks. I was all fucked up, and I still am not.
Yeah.
I'm still not back to like
Oh
baseline,
yeah, for
and it's
sure, for
been
sure.
a year and a half, which is
Yeah,
crazy. But yeah,
yeah,
so I
yeah.
think people are starting to realize that just because something might be a brag worthy
Mhm, mhm,
career choice,
mhm,
or a brag worthy department, like, look
mhm.
how many complicated acute patients I take
I
care of.
can, yeah,
It's almost like bragging, right?
yeah. Look
People
how
are,
many drips I can handle.
yeah, like that.
Yeah.
People are kind of starting to realize, like, am I staying in this position so I can continue to brag,
Mhm.
or because it makes me feel that I'm a better nurse or more of a nurse, or am
Yeah.
I staying in this position because it's the right place for me to be? And there's a very big difference between having a great job and having the right job. And
Mhm.
this is
Definitely.
a lesson that I try to teach my mentees quite
Mhm.
often, that there's always going to be tons of great jobs out there,
Mhm.
and there's also going to be the right jobs.
Yeah.
And that, when you're searching for these jobs, and I mean, sometimes it's hard to find the right job right off the bat. Typically, your first
Mhm.
not always going to be the right job,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
can be a good stepping stone. But whenever you think about like people just staying in these areas that aren't right for them, that is that's burning people out. And we have this mass exodus out of nursing. I mean, there's
Definitely.
lots of reasons for the mass exodus, but I definitely think that people should focus more so moving forward on, like, where's the right place for me to be.
Yeah.
I don't care
Or
what any
what makes them happy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we don't ever put that as a priority. We automatically, just go for what we think other people respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, also for my friend, what she was telling me was it is hard to leave, let's say, the bedside because security is there, right? You have great
oh,
pay, you have pension
you got your
compared
3 months.
to, yeah. but they feel so unfulfilled, so unhappy.
Yeah.
And what I told them was, financial security, yes, but like that mental health security
Yeah.
is not there. Like you're losing
Yeah.
yourself as you're amassing all of these
Exactly.
benefits. Yeah.
Exactly. So are the benefits really worth it if you're sacrificing your mental health? If you
Yeah.
are sacrificing your quality of life or
Mm-hmm.
your work life
Mm-hmm.
balance? Because the thing of it is that we have to realize that there are jobs out there that will give us a balance of both.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're more non-traditional jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they're less glorious jobs.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're jobs working in the public health sector
Yeah.
where you can get good city benefits but not be killed every shift
Mm-hmm.
you go in for.
Yeah.
Is that necessarily as a braggable job as saying
Yeah.
I work in the ECMO ICU at the nation's #5 hospital, knowing that working there you're
Mm-hmm.
absolutely comfortable. So at some
Yeah.
point you need to stop stepping away from taking and keeping jobs where we are miserable, but we
Mm-hmm.
like how it
Yeah.
sounds or we like the schedule, and start prioritizing our mental health and shifting to jobs that actually check more than one or two things off the box.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
But what do you think? It's a hard decision though. Like, yes, definitely we can say all of those things, but I feel like it's so hard to make that decision, right? To
Oh, it's
actually
terrible.
leave that security
No one
and
wants to make
pursue
that
things.
decision. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's not it's an awful decision.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
made the decision to leave the bedside or to leave clinical practice last
Mhm.
year, it took me months to even attempt to make the decision. And it's not an easy decision.
Mhm.
But if you think about any decent thing in life that gets us somewhere further, it's not going to be just an easy decision. It's
Yeah.
not be a cakewalk. I'll tell you what the easy decision is. The easy decision is to take the traditional job.
Mhm.
The easy decision is to take, the job where they're constantly pulling in 300
Mhm.
orientation
Mhm.
every other Wednesday. And
Mhm.
it's like, wow. But the difficult decision, and again, here's where we really need to start shifting how we're training and how we're educating our nurses and our healthcare professionals is, that other decision should be, you know, again, like the opposite of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where is going to be the best place that allows you to feel professionally
Mhm.
fulfilled and allow
Mhm.
you to grow your career,
Mhm.
and what is also going to bring you some peace of mind and what's
Mhm.
going to fulfill you and make you happy, instead of just what has the good schedule and
Yeah.
where do you get the most vacation time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we could go on and on about that.
Yeah. I like what the comment said. There's no clout in hating your everyday, which is so true.
Yeah, listen, let's go back to that. Yep, Christy BB, um, you hit the nail on the head. There's no fucking cloud in that. Just like
Yeah.
that meme that you see, it says exhaustion is not a badge of honor.
Mhm.
Like, who does that make feel good at the end of the day? It doesn't. But
It
we
doesn't.
we love to think that being in the most harsh, horrid environment makes us look bigger or makes us better,
Yeah.
makes us more of a nurse. And
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it on. There's a lot of like nurse meme pages.
Yeah.
Evie used to do this too,
I know. Yeah.
where it's like ICU nurses versus like aesthetics nurses or something,
Yeah.
like, oh, we're better because
Mhm.
we work here, and that's the mentality. And I think that we
Mhm.
have to eventually shift away from that mentality,
Yeah.
thinking that
Yeah.
that the more acuity you take care of, or the more devices you manage, makes you more of something, because that's kind of what's fucking with people's heads when
Mhm.
they go out to seek jobs, because they're like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know if I want to work in the
Yeah.
hospital. I kind of want to work in aesthetics clinic, or I
Yeah.
want to work in the public health sector
Mhm.
educating young men about HIV. Like, is that brag worthy? No. Like, is it
Mm.
acuity? No. Matter of fact, it's probably going to feel like a cakewalk compared to,
Yeah.
the traditional job. But if people were encouraged a little more from the beginning to do that thing that they're really passionate about, I think we would
Mhm.
have a lot more nurses in the right jobs.
Yeah, definitely. Like for those who are working bedside, like there are people who are meant to work bedside. Like they
Oh yeah. Oh,
truly
totally.
thrive in it. They
Totally.
enjoy it. They
Yeah.
love learning every single
Yeah.
time. Like that's not the issue. The issue is that there are people who are staying and settling in bedside when they hate being there every single moment. And it's so sad. It is honestly so sad. I mean, I agree with talking about like the memes, right? The CVICU nurses and the aesthetic nurse. Always the CVICU nurses.
But both are still nurses.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I was actually doing an interview the other day with a journalist, and she was like, "So you're not really even a nurse anymore then?" I'm like, "Well, actually, I'm a nurse practitioner. And actually, yes, I am. In fact, I have a much bigger impact on people doing what I do now than when I go to the hospital." And she's like, "But how can you say that you're even a nurse or an NP if you're not in the hospital?" And I was like, "What is the definition of a nurse?" And she said, "Someone who takes care of patients." And I said, "Is that the definition of a nurse? Like, who wrote that? Did you write that?" I didn't. That's not my definition. My definition of a nurse is somebody who helps contribute to the health, wellness, or health education of another. And I think that's kind of like a very general, broad, like definition, but like nurses do so much more beyond patient care in everyday world. And the part of that is education, mentoring, and impact. And she was like, "Oh, I've never thought about it like that." And I'm like, "Yeah, there's like nurses who own businesses, and there's who have, for instance, like Nicole Kupchik. She has this phenomenal like online learning courses, and she was just, this journalist was like, whoosh, and I'm like, "Yeah, there's a whole group of us out there." And I'm like, "So are you going to tell us that we're not nurses?" And she's like, "No, no, I totally understand it now." So
And I think also with all of the gruesome things that came out of this pandemic, I think a beauty in secret that came out are the connections people made online, right? And it really exposed and showed showed how big nursing is and how diverse the field is. Like, yes, of course, we have the bedside nurses, we have the nurses in outpatient clinics, but we have the educators. Oh, I can just remember the nursing educators who were reteaching everyone the basic stuff that everyone forgot because everyone was so used to their unit that everyone forgot the basics of emergency care, right? And that's where
which is what people had to relearn in COVID, because if your unit was like the post-surgery unit, unit's now the COVID unit, you're dealing med surge and vented whatnot. And oh, I normally was just doing, incision site checks and post-op vitals. So this is new. And but everything revolves around, I mean, education is the heart of everything we do. And again, like the role of the nurse, it stems from education and impact. And it stems from education and impact almost more than it does from like patient care. I mean, care is obviously a main piece of what nurses do, but it's not like the only part of what nurses are.
And I feel like also we impact whatever we define as a patient, even if it's not like through direct touch, right? Even the things that you do, let's say through social media, like that's touching lives every day. And there are patients in their homes who are scared to seek help. And they need that boost of encouragement. And I feel like that's the great thing about social media. I mean, I know you have your own history of social media in your nursing career, and you're an OG in this.
Been around a long time, and apparently, if any more new followers, I do viral, like annoying TikTok dances.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, and this whole Instagram algorithm is like messing with me.
Yeah, I hate it because I think that it has taken the focus away from meaningful, impactful
content.
Building like content, and it has towards clickbaity, and go viral, funny shit, which everyone needs funny shit. Don't get me. I love me some funny shit, but come the fuck on.
I know. Someone is asking, do you think nursing will ever be the same? I used to love being a nurse up until last year.
So DBW05. My thoughts on that is yes and no. Yes, because the human health spectrum always goes up and down. We have made tons of progress from what we were last year. And I think that there is a level of normalcy that will go back, post COVID. And eventually there will be a post COVID. There was a post Spanish flu, there was a post Black Plague.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually it will happen. It's just a matter of when. But I think there are some things about nursing that won't change. And I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that won't change is nurses really speaking up about their unsafe and toxic work environments, which is a good thing. And also nurses looking for alternate forms of employment like telehealth and remote nursing, and even focusing on, doing their own thing. Because I think a lot of people kind of realize that, maybe this environment isn't the right one for me. I think
Mm-hmm.
COVID forced a lot of people to reevaluate if they love what they do and if that job cares about them.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah,
100%.
I mean, but I think like in the essence, like, yes, nursing will go back to being nursing. I mean, right now, nursing is nursing. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. You deal with the public health of the communities that you serve, and I think that disease processes change and shift over.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure at some point in time down the line, we'll have another pandemic happen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Hopefully, I will be dead and gone by then. but
Please no.
but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree though that it will somewhat return to how it was, but I feel like it's still like everything's like expanding every single day with nursing. And like referring back to what you said earlier, when someone says, "Oh, I hate nursing," I feel like it's more of, are you sure it's nursing itself or it's just a
Yeah, I think
specific nursing that you're working at?
where you're at right now.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of what I was mentioning earlier. Somebody who is at a good job, but not the
Mm-hmm.
right,
Yeah.
um, somebody who is just not in the right department. Maybe you're not in the right specialty. Maybe you're working in the hospital in the ER, and where you should be working at is in the outpatient oncology clinic. You
Yeah.
never,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I usually start out by asking people, what's your dream job?
Yeah.
Literally. And a lot of people are like, what? Why would you ask that? I've never thought about that. But why? Every other
Yeah.
profession thinks about what their dream job would be. If we
Mm-hmm.
finance, if we worked in real estate, if we worked in corporate world, if we worked in the art world,
Mm-hmm.
what's your dream
Mm-hmm.
job? To be a curator of ancient Egyptian art at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Like, that's someone's dream job. But in health, feel again very pigeonholed, very stuck, very
Yeah.
traditional routes. So whenever like I hear someone say like I hate nursing, I usually start out by saying, okay, what's your dream job? And they
Yeah.
tell me something in nursing. The
Yeah.
workshop I had this last weekend, the girl there, her name is Erin. She was like, my dream job to be able to precept NPs like outside of the hospital. And I'm like, okay, so let's get started.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God. But yeah, look, it's Yari. That's a tough question to think about. Do you
Yeah.
know why? It is a tough question to think about because from the minute that we start school, undergrad, grad school, we are never encouraged to be creative,
Mm-hmm.
and we are
Mm-hmm.
never encouraged to think or to dream. We are
Mm-hmm.
encouraged to just get through, get your license, pass, and get a job
Yeah.
in environment A, B, or C. And
Yeah.
thankful that we're there and glad that we have nice benefits.
Which is so ironic because I remember from my nursing textbook in fundamentals, they describe nursing as nursing is a science and an art, right? There's a whole creative world behind nursing that I feel like we don't really touch upon. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm so, even to this day, I'm so surprised at the different nurse jobs that someone could have. Like, I didn't even know that a nurse could be a flight nurse.
Yeah. A flight nurse. I mean, there are nurses who are like device educators. Like
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
I was a cards NP, we took care of LVAD patients.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our, so we had an educator who would come around and she was amazing. And she was a nurse and she worked for Abbott and she would come around and she would educate us on the LVADs
Yeah.
and her job, and she's like, I'm so glad that I realized that, bedside wasn't for me and I found this other opportunity. She's like, I make great money. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to work nights and weekends and holidays. And she loved it. And it was the right thing for her. But like a lot of people are like, I didn't know nurses could work for device companies.
Yeah, my friend too. He always wanted to be like product marketing, and he's a nurse. And I was like, you can be a medical representative for products. You don't know that,
Yeah.
right? Like for
Work for like
Medtronic or
Stryker
whatnot.
or Medtronic or
Yeah,
Abbott, like in a
and
heartbeat.
they make lots of money too because
Yeah.
they have a lot of commissions.
Yeah. They have commissions and they also have much bigger budgets.
Nursing is great because it is so expensive. But every new grad or nursing student that's about to graduate that I talk to, they're like, I'm already stressed thinking about what hospital unit I could get into. I mean, one, obviously, it's hard to get a job as a new grad nurse. You have no experience. No one
Yeah.
trusts you.
So it's so frustrating.
Yeah, yeah. But also, I feel like this is the first thing that come out of new grad nurses' mind, like even right after graduation, is what hospital unit am I going to work at when it doesn't have to be a hospital. Like,
Yeah, it
it does
doesn't
not have to be a hospital.
have to be a unit. Like, I mean, you could go right into device sales. You could go right into, working for someone's like private practice somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
could go work for the health department in the city, and you could go work as a school nurse. You could go
Yeah.
work. I mean, again, like the shit is. You could work for a big pharma. You could work
Yeah.
for a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
What do you care about?
Yeah. Definitely.
There's so many options.
Politics too, like you said. We need so much nursing voice in legislation.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm only like almost 2.5 years in, and I feel like because of COVID, I really am burnt out. I think also being in social media kind of didn't help with it, but also didn't help with it because so much. I mean, there's so much misinformation going on online.
Oh
And
my,
I feel like this is also
it's
another way our nursing roles are extended, right? Outside of a building is through our platforms here
yeah.
on social media because of how much misinformation is going on.
It's
Actually, I
like
started, yeah,
draining.
yeah,
It's
it is so
literally
draining.
draining. It's like exhausting. And I mean, I had to like take like I'm like about like a month and a half ago, I was like, I can't fucking talk about COVID misinformation, vaccine misinformation
Yeah,
anymore. I'm like, I
yeah,
need a solid 2 months off of it.
yeah.
And
One of the main reasons why I started this live stream was there was one time I just got out of it was a 13-hour COVID shift, and once I got out of Sinai, there were protesters outside of saying how COVID was a hoax.
yeah,
When
uh,
when we bagged 10 patients that night, and I was like, I cannot
yeah.
deal with this. I and you'll notice that those who usually talk are the ones who hasn't stepped foot in the hospital.
Oh yeah, they're so far removed. There's always a
Yeah.
disconnect with ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about people who are ignorant, people
Mm-hmm.
like that who are spreading,
Yeah.
that information, there's a huge
Yeah.
disconnect because, for instance, they only watch Fox News.
Yeah. Red
So,
flag.
red, the red
the
flag.
the red flags.
The
Four
red
red flags.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's a new battle that I feel like everyone in the healthcare field is going to continue battling, especially in this age of social media. I mean, I feel like it's also here on Instagram that and TikTok as well, where we see so many of the dirty secrets that the hospitals are being exposed, right? Even Nurse Blake, I don't know if you saw he did a Instagram story series of he's like, oh, send me how your hospital looks or
Oh
send
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I was dying. I was dying. I was like, this is how we treat nurses. This is
This is
how
also
hospitals treat.
why hospitals don't like nurses with large platforms and nurses who
Yeah.
yeah, funny. This is like, yeah. I I think that we should all kind of be whistleblowers if we can safely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my stand-up show, the Bad Decisions Tour, that is going to basically be like a full 90-minute roast of the healthcare system.
I am ready.
I'm gonna be like roasting everybody, and I'm kind of excited because
Excited to hear
it'll
it.
it'll give like a way for like I don't need to worry about a hospital firing me,
Yeah.
so shit now. So Oh,
Actually, this is very timely because my last shift in the hospital is this Saturday night.
oh my God.
So
Are
I'm gonna
you?
be nice. I'm gonna be nice till until Saturday. But I did actually, well, prior to the hospital, for a few months, I was working with a facility to give vaccinations with flu vaccines during that time.
Yeah.
And then now we're giving like COVID vaccines and now to children. And I feel like just that connection of patients waiting for their immunization has been so touching to me. So I actually want to
Yeah.
allocate more time to that where I have like
Good.
less stress in the hospital because
Yeah.
cardiac surgery was so fun and I learned so much,
Yeah.
but it is so stressful.
It is. It's
It
very,
is
very high intensity.
so stressful.
It's also heavy. Um,
It's so heavy,
very
yeah.
heavy in the sense of like, I can tell you many times where I used to go home from my shift and I would just be so sad because it's like you have a patient who they are rejecting their brand new heart, or you have a patient who like their LVAD
Mm-hmm,
issues and they are
mm-hmm,
not a transplant candidate.
mm-hmm,
And you do then
mm-hmm. Yeah,
there's
it's like
always
these people come to you hoping that
yeah. Oh,
everything will turn out okay, right? And
and it
then
can be very heavy. So you're gonna
I
go.
know.
So you're going full time in the vaccine center.
Yeah, as much as I can. And yeah, and I still also do work in a clinic part time as well, per diem as well, in an interventional cardiology. So
Oh,
during nursing school, I was the medical assistant in that clinic, and the cardiologist there brought me to Sinai because that's where they're attending. So now I'll be back. I'll be back there as well.
so then it looks like after your shift on Saturday, you'll be able to say a lot more.
I know. I can't wait for January because
I know.
I mean, I'm per diem now, but I'm still contracted, so it will be nice.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
that'll
no,
that'll that'll be a good change for you.
yeah, and it's not just me. I mean, yes, of course, I was kind of burnt out from the whole COVID thing. I think it was kind of different as a new grad nurse because you look up to these senior nurses hoping to give you guidance,
Yeah.
but they themselves didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
it was
trying to
such
learn how
a
to
shock.
be a nurse, but also learn how to be a nurse dealing with something that we're
Yeah,
all so unsure about.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so,
And
new grads during last year really kind of got hit in the head with the baptism by fire.
I know. And another group of people in the hospital who I really felt for were the interns, the residents.
Oh, I know.
Came out of straight of medical school and
Oh, just
everyone's looking up
frightful,
to them.
frightful because they're like, oh, you're a doctor? Okay, come in here, run this ICU. I had OBGYN attending, and then I remember I had an OBGYN attending one night, and then I had a like an endocrinology attending one
Mhm.
night running our COVID ICU. And they were our attendings, and they were both from Seattle. And we realized we're like, wow. And
Wow.
OBGYN attending was maybe a year out of her fellowship. And yeah, I mean, like it's crazy. People got thrusted into some shit last year.
Let me tell you, I've never seen so many people from different states in one unit
Yeah,
with all the travelers during that time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And be like, all right, is anybody staff? And no one raises their hand.
And yeah, it was definitely scary, scary times. But as gruesome as it was, I feel like this whole pandemic really exposed a lot about the hospital system, and it exposed a lot.
Those things
Yeah,
I think that people finally like can't deny.
yeah.
You
I'll wait
know,
until
where
after
where,
Saturday,
where
but
they'll have to be part two.
yeah, I'll text
Filling the
you
tea.
I'll text you what I really want to. Just kidding. But
I'll
yeah, and
put it on the podcast.
it will have to wait. It will be in Bad Decisions Live.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really do feel for my co nurses like of my cohort or even the year after me because they
Mhm.
couldn't find a job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They couldn't find a job because yes, everyone was short. Everywhere was short, but who's gonna precept these people
yeah.
when
Oh yeah,
almost
yeah.
when almost everyone quit. Like
Yeah.
people didn't want to go to work, which is understandable for many people had families, people were afraid. We get that part. A lot of people who were waiting to retire just retired when the pandemic was starting. And so with new grads coming in, like from 2020, I had to precept a student. I was like,
Gosh,
yeah, we're gonna work through this together.
break,
Teach me as well.
breaks my heart. Absolutely
I
breaks.
know.
My
And
heart.
the last cohort of nursing school during that time, which were all online, and they had to learn how to do stuff for clinicals online at home.
Oh,
Oh,
honestly, I just, I have no words for that because I think that that had to be so incredibly difficult.
yeah, I
Not,
know.
I mean, if not impossible. It just, oh,
Yeah. Yeah, and through all of this though, like I feel like there's so many things with nursing that tries to scare the new generation, right? Oh, nurses eat their young. Oh, the management is bad. Oh, hospitals don't care for you. Oh, you can't find a job. What would be your message to these incoming nurses who are either in school or just got out of school or are trying to get into nursing school?
I think my message would be, for one, you're never alone. There's always going to be somebody, whether it's in your department or whether it's here on
Mm-hmm,
Instagram, who you
mm-hmm,
can reach out to. And
mm-hmm,
that's the first and most important message because a lot of new nurses are just feeling very alone. If you do not have a good supportive environment where you're working, then reach out to, one of us nurse public figures and one of us nurse mentors here on Instagram. There's a pretty good group of us here.
yeah,
Nurses, nurse practitioners, because that's why we're here. That's why we have this community. I think the other piece to that is that you have to trust your gut. We're so good about trusting our gut when we're
mm-hmm,
walking in and we're like, this patient's trying to die right now.
yeah,
But we are terrible at trusting our gut when we feel like, I don't think this is the right floor for me. I don't
mm-hmm,
think the right unit for me. I don't
mm-hmm,
think the right area for me. And
mm-hmm,
instead of just like forcing yourself to stay in a situation that isn't good because it may have some cool perks, do
mm-hmm,
yourself a favor and start exploring things with the first priority being, will this job make me happy, bring me
mm-hmm,
fulfillment, and will it
mm-hmm.
allow me to feel valued? And try to do your reverse job search and start from something like that and go after the job that you know that you will actually be happy with. So,
Yeah.
but know that you're never alone. If you feel like a certain place isn't right, sacrificing your mental health over it, get out and get somewhere else because there's so many other things you could be doing.
And also, I feel like it also boils down to happiness, and that influences your patient care as well. Because if you're
Oh
not happy with your job and your mind's not on it and your heart's not on it, that's actually in the long term, that's so unsafe for patients and for you as well.
yeah, if you're
Um,
comfortable, I mean, shit,
I know, like,
that's how it is.
yeah. I actually wanted to share there is a cardiologist, a new fellow cardiology fellow in a different floor, and he's always wanted to do something with photography, right?
Mhm.
But he comes from a family of physicians, so he felt
Right.
like there was no other choice but to become a physician. And one thing he told me one night, like really touched me, and he said, "It's so sad that I call the shots on people's hearts when my own is not in it." And
Ooh, that's deep.
I know,
That hits deep. Um, yeah, that's, and you know what? He's right.
yeah,
He's right. So like,
yeah,
what life are you living? Are you living a life
mm-hmm,
making choices operating out of fear or making choices
mm-hmm,
that are going to make other people satisfied or happy or make you look
yeah.
cool? Or are you
Yeah.
making choices where you are going to be the priority and where you
Mhm.
feel fulfilled,
Mhm.
valued, and appreciated? And you're actually
Mhm.
going to be passionate about what you're doing. And like, if your own heart isn't in it, then yeah, your bank account might be in it, your
Yeah.
schedule might be in it, but that's going to, at some point in time, that's not going to be enough anymore. And
Yeah.
we can't keep suppressing our feelings when it comes to like where we think we should be versus where we're at.
100%. And I feel like the nursing community is so, so, so fortunate to have figures like you who stand as that role model and just, and like, it's a sense of refuge. right? I feel like as nurses also we try to seek validation from a lot of sources because the own places we work at don't give them.
Exactly.
So it's great to see many pillars who are public who reminds nurses that oh there is a life like outside of bedside nursing.
Yeah,
And
not your identity.
yeah, it is not your identity. I agree. And it's so fun. I mean, not everyone probably can be a legendary influencer like DK
Oh
do.
my God. Stop. I am the
But
most regular chick you will ever meet, literally. And you'll meet me in January, so stop.
I cannot wait. And I love how your Twitter bio is it's as audacious, an audacious person. And I super agree. And I feel like us nurses should be more audacious,
We
right?
should stir the pot more. We should
Yeah.
we should
We should stir the
yeah,
pot more. Yeah.
we should. We should stir the pot more, and we should be a little more opinionated and a little less
Hmm.
tolerant.
Yeah. No idea how many times I hear from my co-nurses when they try to voice out their opinions, and they'll be like, "Oh, no one's gonna listen. I am just a nurse." I think we have to change that
Yeah,
mentality.
yeah. And people feel that way for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there really needs to be a big cultural change in nursing, but it has to
Yeah,
start the public and the media portrayals of what a nurse is and what nursing is, and it also needs to start in our education systems,
I
and then
agree.
down into the departments and the areas where nurses work, and to the people who are training new nurses, and and then here in the social community. And so
Yeah.
if we all make it a point to make some of that a little bit of change,
Mm-hmm.
or to push a dialogue a little more each day, then eventually shit will change. Shit will.
Yeah. Yeah. I always tell people like you should be proud that you're a nurse, and it's something to be really, really, really to be proud of.
Yeah,
And
it
I am
is. No
proud.
matter
Yeah.
where you're a nurse at, I don't care if you are a school nurse at a grade school with 10 kids in it, or if you
Mm-hmm.
are an ECMO nurse at Hopkins, or if you are a nurse working in a free HIV clinic in the middle of Newark, New Jersey. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you check Botox all day. If you do, I'll be your
I,
friend.
I mean, I mean, yeah. If you do, I think it was Happy Botox Day yesterday, and I think I missed the memo because I need some static lines taken care of. And also for school nurses here in New York, I've been hearing of school nurses. They're hiring for like 100 to 150 an hour. I mean,
Wow, that's a good opportunity.
yeah, for everyone there who wants to be a school nurse.
Well, thank you
Yeah,
so much for having this. I think
Katie.
this was some great dialogue.
Katie, thank you so much. It is such an honor. Thank you for gracing us with your time and your wisdom and your experience. I am so motivated and encouraged by you, as with many other people. And thank you, Clara, for connecting both of us
I
ladies
know.
and carrying it.
Shout out to my girl. There's Clara.
Shout out to
Oh, and
Clara.
thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for this dialogue and this platform that you're creating in this safe space. And I love it, and you're representing, and I'm here for it. So happy to support in any way.
Thank
And
you.
thank you guys for joining
Thank
in.
you, everyone.
Good night too.
Good night, everyone.
See you
Katie,
guys.
thank you so much. And I'll
Huh?
see you in January.
Oh yeah, you will.
I see you. Bye. Good night,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.